I don't know if I had a sort of program in advance. I felt like it was more about let's do something with people I like, more than I want to tell the story of this or that. The show kind of, in a way, was beyond the issues that are now became part of the regular talk in the street. What is the zeitgeist, as to use an 80s term. Somehow, it encompassed it and went beyond it. And at the same time, this idea of identities, this idea of desires, this idea of roles that we give ourselves to play with, that kind of are very much part of this very strong stream of identity politics that are informing the public discourse nowadays, are somehow thematics or approach to life that I've been constantly part of since I was a very little kid. My mother is Algerian, my father is Sicilian. He and she met in Morocco. I grew up in Ethiopia. I've been always very certain of my own sexuality without any kind of dramatic doubts about it. And yet I've been always very speculative about what I kind of was interesting in exploring with my gaze. I grew up in Palermo. My adolescence was there. And in Palermo, being a sort of a beautifully multicultural city per se, and in itself way beyond the fashions and way beyond the idea of contemporaneity. My contemporaneity when I was a kid was so full of dissonances and that they were really ahead of times. And I remember when I was like quite young, must have been like 13, 14, even younger maybe. Me, my sister, my cousins, we became friends with a group of wonderful trans people in Palermo that we met into the gardens of Giardino Inglese, this beautiful villa. And I remember how odd and wonderful the companionship with these people became. And I remember I entered in a collective of feminists in my 17s, in my late teens. I remember I met artistry at the highest level when I was quite young, because I remember there was this very fervid cultural possibilities in Sicily when you had people like Sam Fuller and Ariane Mushkin and Jean-Marie Straub coming to show their art there, and you could approach them and you could be close to them. So you see, like, all that for me is a baggage of knowledge that is totally part of my flesh and blood. And so I feel like that we are who we are necessarily is the reflection of that. And because all of that is something that has become fashionable now, I like the idea that we are who we are is not fashionable, because it is not about the patina of things, but it's about the real nature and bone structure of things. When you meet people like Caitlin and Fraser, you meet the two kids who are in wonderment, and they are not assertive. So they are not wearing a dress because it's fashionable to do so, but because they're curious to understand what will be the effect on themselves first and the others afterwards. So it's also a series that doesn't shy away from conflict. And I think in the current conversation, the conflict is feared. And I like the idea that this show doesn't fear conflict. I wanted to be a filmmaker, and I were fascinated by cinema because it struck me in a way that I guess was really entering in my subconscious. I remember watching when I was very young on my mother's lap in a movie theater in Ethiopia as a print of Lawrence of Arabia. And that movie kind of changed everything for me, because it made me understand how, again, unconsciously, how a projected image was about immersion. It was about extraordinarity. That can be said of early movies I saw, The Argonauts, or later, but not much later, Alien, or when I grew up a little bit more and I could go by myself to see things that were more complex and maybe that I didn't need to understand completely, but I was like shocked by, I don't know, the first time you see a movie by Fassbinder, the first time you see a movie by Oshima. I want to be brutal because we are in a very apparently quiet and nice city, which given the proximity with finance must be very aware of brutality. I think that to be a filmmaker, eventually, it all comes to two important things. Either you have the gifts and the talent, or you don't. But you may have ambition. You may have the capacity of kind of like creation of yourself into the eyes of the others that is a little bit of a smoke and mirrors. And this is whatever happened always. So you have gifts, talent, curiosity, capacity of exploration, taking risks, making things that are with rough edges and grow into some level of being masterful. So my only real advice is do not expect to go through the same steps of others, because that's not the way. And try to understand who you are. I think that if you are really capable of understanding who you are, you might be able to get where you want. Not to be aware or kind of willing to be part of a cinema because it's cool, that doesn't help much. Does it? To know who you are and to be like having a plan to get where you want to be is a guarantee of relevance or any sort of quality? No. But at the end of the day, it's such a tiring job, it's such a exhausting process that there is space for everybody.